If you've used any word processor program made in the last 30 years or so, you've come to expect that it'll greet you with something like Times New Roman 12, Calibri 12 or Arial 11 displayed in some prominent location of the UI, usually on the toolbar just above the text area. We all know that Times New Roman and Calibri are fonts, or more precisely typefaces, and the number beside it is the font size. The larger the number, the larger the text, right? But have you ever wondered what it exactly means that a font has size 12? To get the answer, we must actually ask two questions. What does this number measure and in what unit? Thankfully, LibreOffice that we have on screen here gives us a hint on the unit. It doesn't just say 12. It says 12 pt. What can pt mean? Point, isn't it? And sure enough, a quick Google search gives us the Wikipedia page for a typographic point defined as equal to 1/72 of an inch. A rather odd unit, but as valid as any other. That was easy. Okay, the point is 1/72 of an inch, so if I set the font size to 72 points, I'll have a font size of 1 inch. Now, what is actually 1 inch big about this text? LibreOffice shows us rulers laid out in inches, so let's take an inch from it and compare. Is it the height of a capital letter? Not even close. The full height from the top of caps and ascenders of letters like H or K to descenders in P or Q? Closer, but still not quite. So maybe the distance between baselines of subsequent lines? That's too large. Just what on earth is going on here? This may come as a bit of a shock, but fonts are older than computers. Older than any electronics for that matter. And before computers they looked like this. The famous movable type consisted of sets of metal slabs with leather-shaped tips or faces that could be arranged in purpose-built frames to be used as giant but reconfigurable stamps. That's how printing worked before computers. And a number of conventions from that time still persist today. See, before computers, the font size meant the height of that metal slab. Plain and simple. The height of most fonts was just enough to house all the glyphs included in it, including capital letters, ascenders, descenders, serifs and whatnot. And maybe a little slack to make it nicer to read when placed one on top of another. That little bit of extra slack was often not enough to make the text look nice, so leading was used. Typically a 2-point-thick strips of lead, hence the name, would be inserted between lines of 10-point types for more natural spacing. So, getting back to our modern digital Times New Roman in LibreOffice, maybe something is going on with this spacing. In the olden times, leading was measured in absolute units like points, but nowadays it's usually relative to the font size. 2 points of leading for 10 points of font size or 20% leading is still a common recommendation. So, if we add 20% to an inch, do we have 1.2 inches here somewhere? It now exceeds the distance between baselines just a bit, but I feel we are getting somewhere. Maybe it's 15%? Gotcha. For a 72 point or 1 inch Times New Roman, the distance between adjacent baselines is exactly 1.15 inches. That would mean that we have 15% leading coming just from the font file, before any spacing settings are applied, and that additionally we have this much spacing from the letter not filling the entirety of the virtual metal slab, I guess? If we switch to Arial, the sizes remain largely the same. Helvetica, however, has no leading whatsoever, while for everyone's favorite Comic Sans, it's a whopping 40%. The size of the actual lettering seems to look largely consistent between all those different typefaces though. The ugly truth is that the font size, also called an M or M size by typography nerds, doesn't really mean much. There are no technical means in Type 1, TrueType or OpenType file formats that would force the size measurement to correspond to anything really. When common fonts of the early 20th century like Helvetica and Times New Roman got digitized, they retained the size designations they had in the metal type world, and modern font designers just size their fonts so that they look consistent with those established classics at the same M size. Other measurements of typefaces do exist. The height between the topmost and bottommost part of any glyph, not including accent marks, in a font is referred to as body height. X height is, as the name suggests, the height of the lowercase x letter. For general purpose typefaces, body height will usually be about 90% of M size, while X height is commonly about half M size. But those are just conventions, and nothing prevents the font maker from getting it as inconsistent as they want, and even change it on the spot. The famous Zapfino font that's included with Apple computers has been quietly made about 2.5 times larger in macOS 10.2 from 2002 compared to previous versions, which made everyone's Laurel and Diploma templates break after a system upgrade. But so well, Apple isn't known for commitments to backwards compatibility, is it? So there you have it, everything you need to know about font sizes, at least when it comes to documents formatted for print. Scaling that to on-screen pixels is an entirely different story for an entirely different video.